So yesterday I talked about the death of Colin Powell, and we talked about the political side of it. Colin Powell, a Republican who, yes, in his later years spoke out against anti-Muslim rhetoric and condemned the xenophobia and the nonsense of Donald Trump and Trump's followers, was not a Trump supporting Republican, but also was one of the most sinister figures in the sale of the Iraq war to the American people and the international community with faulty intelligence back in 2003. And we looked at clips of that. And we talked about the political, and we also talked about the medical. Colin Powell was vaccinated. He was 84 years old, died of COVID complications. And I mentioned yesterday that many anti-vaxxers would use this and point to it and say, see, there's no point in getting vaccinated, ignoring, of course, that the data shows overwhelmingly that those who die are not vaccinated. And in addition to that, in the hours after we published yesterday's clip, we learned that Colin Powell was severely immunocompromised, had Parkinson's, as well as a type of blood cancer called multiple myeloma, which is a big, in treatment for multiple myeloma is a significant immunocompromising a circumstance for an individual. But it didn't matter. The anti-vax stuff exploded, and it wasn't just the usual suspects. It was even Fox News daytime reporters pushing this stuff. The anti-vaxxers are foaming at the mouth, using Colin Powell's death while vaccinated to attack vaccines and to attack vaccine requirements. So we're going to go over this today, but it's important to say again, Colin Powell was not just a random guy who was vaccinated and died, which can happen. We have significant protection against severe disease and death from the vaccines. But with a planet of 7 to 8 billion people, you're going to have some random, seemingly healthy people who are vaccinated and die. That doesn't mean that we ignore the bigger statistics. But Colin Powell was not just a random guy. He was not even just a random 84-year-old guy who was vaccinated and died of COVID. He was an 84-year-old immunocompromised man who died despite being vaccinated, had cancer, and had Parkinson's, which significantly affects your immune system. But the anti-vaxxers want to pretend, see, the vaccine does nothing for anyone. Anybody could die. It's just chance. Fox News host Will Cain went on a rant yesterday morning saying fully vaccinated people are being hospitalized and dying, and it's just we can't trust anybody.
You brought up COVID. Look, this day will be a day for many things, for remembering the man, for remembering the leader that was lost. It's also a day to understand the implication on everyday Americans. And the reports are he died from complications of COVID. The family has made a point in their post on Facebook this morning that Colin Powell was fully vaccinated. And as Americans out there wonder what lies ahead for them, and they search and they need truth moving forward. We're seeing data from across the world. We're seeing data from Europe, from the United Kingdom, that fully vaccinated people are being hospitalized and fully vaccinated people are dying from COVID. And here we have a very high profile example that is going to require more truth from our government.
Now, of course, there's no lack of truth. The truth is you're overwhelmingly less likely to die of COVID if you're vaccinated. Colin Powell, he's straight up saying, this is anecdotal thinking. He's straight up saying this case shows that we're not getting enough truth. This case doesn't change the truth, which is the overwhelming majority of those who are dying are unvaccinated, even as the country is more and more vaccinated. Here's another similar example. This one is from Fox and Friends playing a similar game.
There will also be conversations about the fact that he was fully vaccinated, according to his family, and he died from complications from COVID. We are beginning to see statistics like this grow in frequency.
Yes, we are.
We know that the vaccine does wane over time in its ability to protect you from not just transmission and infection, but from severe complications and hospitalization, and obviously death as well. We know that it wanes, and we know that it's beginning to spill over COVID into the vaccinated population. Again, Colin Powell in the direct age demographic that suffers the most from complications from COVID. But I think everyone watching needs to be aware of limitations and protections.
Yeah, limitations. You are always better off with the protection of the vaccine. That's the reality. And then we'll follow up on this later. Fox News reporter John Roberts tweeted, Powell's death was evidence of the waning efficacy, tweeting, the fact that Colin Powell died from a breakthrough COVID infection raises new concerns about how effective vaccines are long term. No, it doesn't. And he subsequently deleted this tweet. As Mother Jones has been reporting, major news outlets ran headlines about this without acknowledging that Colin Powell was immunocompromised with multiple conditions, but talking about him being vaccinated. If you're going to talk about him being vaccinated, you've got to talk about the other side as well. New York Times, Colin Powell, first black national security advisor, died at 84 of COVID. He was fully vaccinated, families said. Right, but you've got to tell both sides of that. MSNBC, Colin Powell dies from COVID complications. Powell was fully vaccinated. Newsweek, former U.S. Secretary of State Colin Powell dies from COVID complications, was fully vaccinated. Colin Powell said in an announcement on social media he was fully vaccinated. If you're going to do that, you should really say fully vaccinated and severely immunocompromised. It would be irresponsible not to, or skip saying both. Skip saying both if you want. Here's Dr. Zeke Emanuel discrediting the idea that Colin Powell's death means the vaccines aren't working. And he mentions Powell's risk factors. Take a look.
Colin Powell had three important risk factors for COVID. One is his age, 84. He's at the very high end, and we know those people are much more vulnerable. Second, as you point out, he had cancer. And third, he's a man, and men are at much higher risk of dying, especially in his age category. 58% of deaths in those people 65 to 84 are male, even though they make up a minority of that age group. When it comes to multiple myeloma, it's a cancer of the cells, the B cells in the immune system that produce antibodies, so they don't produce effective antibodies, and they grow and grow. And when you treat someone for multiple myeloma, it does suppress the immune system, so he was immunocompromised.
Okay, so that's as if we needed more medical experts telling us what has become obvious over the year and a half of the pandemic. So we are now going to talk separately about specifically Tucker Carlson's dog and pony show that he did in reaction to this, because it's particularly disastrous and particularly weaponized. One of our sponsors is privacy.com. They're giving you $5 when you sign up for their completely free service at privacy.com/Pacman. I've been using Privacy for a little over a year now. You've heard me talk about it before. It's a lifesaver, and here's how it works. Takes just a couple of minutes to set up. Anytime you buy something online or on the phone, instead of actually using your real credit card number, the Privacy app and the browser plugin let you give each company a randomized virtual credit card number that you create out of thin air. It'll even autofill the card number with one click. And the payment is taken out of your checking account without the merchant ever knowing your real information. So this allows you to keep your banking information secure, but also to take control of your finances. You can create up to 12 of these virtual credit cards a month. You can set spending limits. You can freeze them. You can delete them anytime you want. So when you do this, it means you're not going to be charged when you don't want to be, because you can destroy the virtual card number right after using it, which, for instance, I love using free trials because I know I won't be charged when the trial is over if I use a virtual credit card number. You're keeping your identity private by not telling companies who you are. You're keeping your bank or credit card info protected against data breaches and identity theft, and it's free. There's no catch whatsoever. But if you want, Privacy also offers a $10 a month plan that gives you 1% cash back and lets you create 36 credit cards a month, and a $25 a month plan tailored more for small businesses where you can create 60 card numbers a month and much more. But definitely go ahead and at least get started with the free plan. You'll protect your financial info. Companies can't charge you unexpectedly. And like I said, you'll get $5 to spend when you sign up at privacy.com/Pacman.